So, I've been receiving the question about generations, right, in Chronicle. Right? Asking about what is first generation, what is second generation, what is third generation, right? So, today we're going to explain that. So, the concept of, because, and so before I specifically explain what first, second is, I should tell you that, like, the arrangement, right? That first generation is, of course, going to be above second, normally the parent, and then second is normally going to be the parent of the third generation, of course. But I should talk about, well, terminology. Now, I like to have as few terminologies, like, as possible that I can write. Like, let's say that somebody was saying that something is in Hayu, right? Let's just say it's in Hayu. Now, right, let's just say that's a term. Well, maybe it's not explained very well. Right? Well, even if it is explained well, it needs to have a significance. Let's say Hayu. Well, actually, let's just say it's named after General Sakimo Hayu, right? Let's say, General Hayu does, let's say let's say that he has a habit of pulling out of military engagements as soon as he sees any hint of his opponent getting an advantage on him. So, maybe then it becomes a term to say that when somebody performs something in Hayu, it's as if they're tentative, always ready to jump away if anything seems to go wrong for them, right? If somebody is described as being Hayu, maybe that's what they do. Maybe they will turn away, to get away, stop doing whatever they're doing, stop pursuing an idea as soon as it isn't going very well for them, right? Let's say that is what it means for Hayu. Well, okay. If there was a story about this general actually doing things in scene, then it could have some significance to the audience. But if there is no scene, right? If there's no story following him, and it's just said, oh yeah, this is why, and here's the general, well, I mean, sure, you might remember it, but you're less likely to. But this is compared to not even having a reason. What I mean by this is, like, what if the reason why is, like, in Hayu, it's just not explained. It's just said, yeah, it's just called in Hayu, right? Just like, yeah, oh yeah. He does something in Hayu, you know what I mean? Just acting all tentative, acting all, not going full into it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, then there's no reason. There's no reason for it to be there if it doesn't mean anything, because the reader, is not going to recognize the significance of it. So, let's say, like terminologies, right? And so, because I try not to use very many terminologies, because, well, a lot of them, the reader's just not going to remember. But these generations, well, for this one, the title kind of explains itself. That's just how generations work. It's just that it is your. First you have you, then you have your children, and then you have your grandchildren, right? First, second, and third. But it's not just that. It's not just that direct family. Because Jericho, of course, Jericho was at the top, but he didn't just have his children below him. There were also other figures, such as his general, or the admiral, or even the prime minister, right? The leader of the Senate, right? The prime minister was the leader of the Senate back when the country was still early. And I think at this point, Yamato is still the leader of the Senate. Yeah, Yamato, prime minister, is the leader of the Senate. That's what the prime minister is doing. But that's another thing, Yamato. Yamato is not second generation because they're not, of course, the original prime minister. Yamato is from the third generation, along with Levi. Because, so you have the general, the admiral, but the admiral did not pass. There was a new admiral, let's say Admiral Prime, right? Then Prime Minister, Prime. But the general? General's still the same. And so, would you compare that? Because the general, the admiral, prime minister, and of course Braxton, these three all worked for Jericho, and Braxton was Jericho's son. And so, because all three of these were his direct subordinates, but not really just not just like his direct subordinates, but general, younger than Jericho, like many years younger, but not just that, but he also saw Jericho as, well, kind of like a father figure, kind of father. He kind of saw Jericho as kind of like a dad. Admiral? I don't remember who. I do. It was Yatagarasu. Yeah. Admiral Yatagarasu. Not the Dragon God. Dragon God's grandson, I think? Yeah, wait, was he the Dragon God's grandson? Yeah, I think he was. I think one of Yatagarasu's sons fused with somebody, and then the result of their fusion, was left behind after the fusion broke, right? That residual power left behind, and I think I'm pretty sure that was Yatagarasu. And so, yeah, the Admiral is the Admiral. He was the Admiral there. But then, he wasn't. After the Cataclysm, the Admiral, he went off to go somewhere else after, the Demon Lord was defeated by Jericho. The Prime Minister? I don't actually remember who the Prime Minister was, but they also left after after Demon Lord was defeated. And the Prime Minister now is Yamato. The Admiral now, whoever that Fleet Admiral is, was third generation because it was with Levi. Braxton may not have had Levi. It's just like how there was another user in third generation, second generation. That being the, who? I think the Chancellor was, and then came down again, and he still is the Chancellor. Pretty sure that the current Chancellor worked with Braxton. Pretty sure he did. And then, afterward, after he worked with Braxton, well, he was still, like, in this case, he wasn't seeing Braxton as a father, but rather as a partner, as an equal, as a co-worker. So he's still in the same generation as Braxton. But then the Prime Minister and the Admiral, they both worked with Levi. Levi, of course, being the Shogun, right? The Admiral, at the time, well, the Admiral, don't remember their name, had kind of been out of the 4 youths who came together so many hundreds of years ago. Well, he was kind of just the number one. He kind of led them. And then as they grew in ranks, they continued adding more members until they had quite a fine navy. But he always was the fleet admiral, and he eventually replaced it. But he wasn't, he wasn't, like the old man in the room. He was just the dominant of the 4 youths. Well, right? I suppose they are, because they don't really age that much. I suppose I can still call them youths, even though they're very old. Hundreds of years old, but they just don't age that much, so yeah, I mean, they still do look young. And so, yeah, he worked with him. Yamato's another of the 3 admirals, along with Levi, in the Imperial Navy. Because even though Jericho actually, I don't know if Jericho approved the Imperial Navy. I don't think he did. I don't think he ever, properly said, yeah, this is my navy in my empire, because I'm pretty sure he just sat down in his chair. You know what? I don't really think he did rebuild, the new Fortunia. I don't think he did build new Fortunia. I think that was mainly Braxton, who did that. Braxton, Yamato, Levi, Fleet Admiral, Grand General, Grand Warden, the Archpriest, of course the Chancellor. All those heads, all those ancients, right, were the ones, I'm pretty sure, who built up the new Fortunia. And so then you have to consider that you go down another generation to Shizuke. But then you also have others, which I'm not going to continue this line down, okay? I'll continue these lines down. But you have characters such as I'm going to use GY for him, Gyoro, right? Gyoro, who, of course, from the Obsidian, from, of course, Chronicle, Legend of the Obsidian Skull. Right? You remember Gyoro. And so, I created Gyoro in order to show, right? I showed someone who came down from Levi in the same way that the Prime Minister had come down from Jericho, right? Gyoro saw Levi not really as a father figure, but in this case, Levi used his spiritual manipulation that he learned from Jericho in order to push some of Levi's magic into Gyoro. Which, another thing is that Jericho didn't only have the one admiral, the one general, of course. He had many other high-ranking officers in his militaries, right? In the Navy, he had a lot of high-ranking officers. And then in the Army, there would be a lot of high-ranking officers as well, because, of course, there would need to be a lot of, there would need to be a lot of the really high-ranked ones, because as an army expands, naturally, you know, okay, as a pyramid widens, if you have the 4 tiers, right, of the admirals, officers, you know, general navy users, and then like the, I don't know, like the, what would the grunts of the navy be called? I don't know. Like, how about like the non-sentient ones? Because I'm gonna just put all the grunts back into that, you know, foot soldier section. So like all, you know, like those, like, you know, like the summons that Jericho had, the temporary like paper craft summons, I'm gonna put in this bottom tier. But at the top, you do have all the, you know, officers, and then of course all those who have like different various admiral ranks. You know, Commodore, Rear Admiral, like Commodore, lower Admiral, Rear Admiral. I don't. Huh? I wonder if Lower Admiral was above or below Rear Admiral. I'm pretty sure it's above. Yeah. So, of course, and then you have Vice Admiral, Admiral, Fleet Admiral. So, all those admiral ranks are up at the top. But then if you have a very wide pyramid, then naturally you might say that these two triangles have the same area. Fine, diagram. But as you can see, this line here going across is a good bit wider than this line, and so of course there would naturally be more admiral ranks, because this is the width of the number of admiral ranks, versus this being the width of the number of, you know, users of Commodore, right? There's going to be more Commodores, of course, more Rear Admirals, more Lower Admirals, more, of course. You get my point. There were just more. And a bigger, right, a broader market. Broader, you know, a broader navy, right? Same with the generals, all those various general positions with the, you know, number of stars. Yeah, that's how Jericho did it. He created more admirals because there were more men. More units. I mean, I don't know. Am I gonna call dragons men? I don't think I am. Am I gonna call demons men? I don't think I am. I'll just go with units. You could be a human. You could be a dragon. There's a lot of demons too. A lot of demons as well, and probably some devils. In any case, yeah, a lot of inhuman things. And so, altogether, there needed to be more. And so, because of this, he, of course, infused a lot of these high-ranking, you know, members with some of his soul power, right? Some of his spirit magic, some of his soul magic, some of the magic that he had inside of him, inside of Jericho. And because of this, they were, well, a lot of them were second generation. Yeah. They were second generation, directly under him, because he infused them. And so they kind of were like his offspring, because he did put his magic into them in exchange for the deal, and they were like, oh yeah. But then, also, these units were also considerably younger than him. A lot of times, well, straight up for these, you know, at the bottom, his summons were, well, born... Sometimes they were born out of him, because sometimes he created them, his summons, or sometimes he pulled them out of, you know, the abyss. But in that case, they're not very old. Demons don't really live that long. At least the, you know, little small demons, the kind of things he was summoning, like, you know, like the little, I don't know, like demon maggots, are not going to live for that long. But maybe at the top, maybe a, I don't know, a bull demon. Maybe a great bull, right? Let's say, I don't know, a like a small town destroying Bull Demon, that's gonna be pretty high up there. A small town destroying that, that's pretty high. And so, yeah, you would have that. You would have those that he infused, and in that case, maybe they were pretty old, but probably not as old as he was, because by the time the Cataclysm happened, well, it had already been 310 years since he came to the world. Well, that's another thing. It is. Historians disagree. Was it 310 years? Or was it 314 years? Or was it 316 years? Historians don't agree on that. Of course, in world, historians don't agree with it. Could have been 310, could have been 314, could have been 316. Really depends on how you mark it. Really depends on how you mark the years. And so, generations, right? That will be the second generation. But then, maybe in the fourth generation, as with Gyoro, or, well, Yin. Yin Furvish, of course, from the recent Aim and Pestilence campaign. Well, Yin he kind of he's different, right? He's not the same person, but he has a piece of the of the soul. He has the soul, which is made of the spirit and the chakra, and it was the spirit, the chakra, and the heart. I think it was that. I think it was the spirit, the chakra, and the heart, all joined together for the soul. And so that, because he only had some of the chakra, he wasn't fully a clone of him. He just happened to have a piece of Gyoro in him to make him stronger. But Yin, well, his magic had a similar flavor, of course, because he did have the same chakras, and chakras are part of the thing that produces magic, and in fact, because he got a piece of the because he got the chakra fragment of the chakra of domination and power. Well, his power spells, his domination spells, were flavored like Gyoro. But not all the spells work, of course. And so you might ask, well then why isn't he, of course, fifth? Why isn't he under Gyoro? The reason why he's not under Gyoro is because Levi is the one who put little chakra shard of Gyoro into Yin, and Levi left behind some of his own magic when he did that, to seal it in, to seal the chakra fragment battery inside of Yin. And well, this was not quite a fifth generation thing. This was a fourth generation piece, because even though Gyoro was fourth generation and Yin was from a fourth and a third, he was still fourth, because Gyoro, well, That's another thing. Yoro is very old, much older than Yin, but they're still in the same generation because of Levi's infusing both of them. And so, some might say that he's 5th generation. But another thing, Yin's father is 3rd generation. Because some of Braxton's power went into, just a little bit went into his father. But even then, that was probably passive. Probably just a bit of passive power just from being around, I believe. But what actually happens is that what more importantly makes Yin's father a 3rd generation is that he worked with Levi a lot. That he was a comrade of Levi. That he worked with him, and that Levi saw, yes, this is my friend, this is my gang, this is my squad. Right? And so they were in the same generation, and so because Yin has 3 other 3 and 4 which was adjacent to him, the 3 is more important. So he did become a 4th generation. And so that's kind of the way the generations work in Chronicle. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to go. Type out your questions in the chat whenever you feel them. But if you decide to tune off now that I've finished this generations explanation, then, well, sure, go ahead. But if you do tune off, then don't forget to stay zesty.